Stay tuned for the Joan Quinn Profiles. Joan served the state of California as a member on the Arts Council and on the Film Commission. She was formerly on the Architectural Commission and fulfilled 2 terms on the Fine Arts Commission for the city of Beverly Hills. As an editor for Andy Warhol's Interview magazine, Condé Nast Publications, and the Hearst Corporation, Joan covered the world of fashion, the mysteries of food, the excitement of theater, and the international art scene. She continues to find people who are on the cutting edge of their professions. Here's Joan Quinn.
Hi, I'm Joan Quinn, and welcome to the Joan Quinn Profiles. We're here taping at the Hollywood Museum in the historic Max Factor building, and it's on Highland Avenue in the heart of Hollywood. Our guests today are photographer, monk, Nicholas Vreeland, and actress, Sylva Kelegian. Photographer, monk, Nicholas Vreeland was born in Geneva, Switzerland, and attended schools in North Africa, Europe, and the United States. In the late 60s and 70s, he pursued a career as a photographer. He was leading a glamorous life. His grandmother was Diana Vreeland, who was the editor of Vogue, and his father was Frederick Vreeland, who was a U.S. ambassador, and his uncle Tim, whom we know very well, was an award-winning architect in Los Angeles. Nicky is a Buddhist monk with a degree, the equivalent of a PhD, and he's the subject of a new film, Monk with the Camera. Hi, it's nice to see you again. Saw you the other day at your art show, which was at the Royal Theater, and the work looks fantastic.
Thank you.
And where did you take all those photographs?
In India.
And what were your subjects?
Well, my life in India, I don't sort of go out and try to photograph what's out there. I just photograph as I make my way through life.
It was so different from when you were actually in New York. I remember you were so cute with the gorgeous head of hair, and you had your camera with you all the time. Your family was very fashionable and fashion conscious. I think your father taught you a lot of fashion tips. Did he?
Well, there were a few rules. You kept your shoes shined, you always had a handkerchief in your pocket, and you always wore a belt. Those were sort of rules of how you dressed.
And I think that's what he had to do when he became a U.S. ambassador, right?
I think he had to do it long before he was ambassador.
What country was he in?
Well, we moved around from Switzerland to Germany to Morocco to New York, the US-UN.
Oh, because he was a what do you call it? Not appointed. Was he appointed ambassador?
He was a foreign service officer.
He was a foreign service officer, right. So you moved a lot. Oh, and did you move as a family?
We moved as a family. But he was, and Morocco was a place that he returned to as ambassador. We lived there when I was a little boy, and then he went back there. That was his last posting.
He was appointed then. What else did you learn from your grandmother? Do you remember your grandmother?
Very well, very well.
Was she ominous?
Well, you know, she was a grandmother, and she had a great love for her grandchildren, and I benefited from that dynamic, from that relationship. And she was very giving, she was very supportive, and we were very close. I came to live in New York to finish college, lived with her,
you did.
and then spent about 8-10 years before becoming a monk living in New York, really spending a lot of time with her.
Well, Mrs. Vreeland loved the boys. I know she did. And she was very close to a lot of wonderful, creative boys and people in New York. Did she open doors for you as far as assisting, say, Avedon, whom you assisted, and who else were you working with? Irving Penn, who both of those photographers did a lot of work for Vogue.
Oh yes, it is only because of her that I was able to go work for Mr. Penn while I was in school. And I would go during my summers and work for him. And then it was he who said, "You should really work for Avedon. That would be."
Is that right?
Yeah. He said it would be an important part of your training. And I went to work in the Penn Studios when it was the summer that I turned 15, and then every summer I would go back to work for him.
That's fantastic. The great thing about that is they were both fashion photographers, but they had a totally different style. What did you learn? What was each
From
one of
each?
them? Yeah, because didn't Penn set up his things?
Well, they both set up their things.
Did Avedon do the same thing too?
Oh, yes. But Penn, there was a strictness. There was a disciplined quality about the way he photographed. You could hear a pin drop in the studio when he
Oh,
worked.
no music, no. Oh.
No music, no nothing. While in the Avedon studio, there was music, there was atmosphere, there was, and we all ate together. We would all the assistants, the models who were being photographed, Dick, Avedon, we would all sit around a table, a big square table, and share our lives. While in the Penn studio, Mr. Penn stayed upstairs, and we assistants stayed downstairs.
Was he older? Was he a lot
I
older? So it wasn't an
probably-
age difference, it was
no.
just a style difference, or a
Absolutely.
personality difference.
Yeah, and you can see it in the photographs. I mean, the Avedon pictures are full of vitality and life, while a Penn photograph has a stillness. He distills to the point that you find something special.
I think that's so true. And they're both beautiful in their own way. And you taking your camera must have been on the street or doing the same thing that they were at that age.
Well, working for Penn made me go to my little room in the dormitory in boarding school and create a studio.
Oh, so you did
So I
take
did.
something with you.
Oh yes, I took a lot.
Well, then how that you were working with the top photographers, you had a chance to go on and be a great photographer. Where did your career path change? Where was the shift?
It's very hard to say there. We went to live in Paris. I developed this love for film, for movies. Paris is probably the greatest city in the world to see movies. And I became so infatuated with movies that I wanted to go to film school. So I came back to New York, went to NYU, studied film, and then started looking for work. But before I did, I took off. I was living with a girlfriend, and she and I took off for a year, traveling through Central and South America, photographing, and going very slowly. But photography sort of changed for me. It was no longer trying to create images in a contrived way. I was just photographing life as if it were little poems. And that continued, and that voyage I feel I'm sort of still on.
Yes, you are, the way you're talking, because you always have your camera with you, right? And you're not setting up little vignettes like you were before. But when did you decide to become a monk? Was it during the filmmaking time?
No, it was something like 1980, after I'd been studying Buddhism with a teacher in New York for about 4 years.
Oh, I see.
And I had this very clear feeling that this would be the most beneficial thing that I could do with my life. And it was terrifying because I didn't want to become a monk, but it seemed the logical thing to do. And then once I became comfortable with the validity of it, with the logic of it, and then slowly the desire to do it grew.
Then how do you develop it? Where you went to school in Tibet as well, did you?
No. I studied in New York
Everything was studied in New York.
until I went off to become a monk in India. I joined
Oh,
a
then you-
Tibetan monastery in a Tibetan refugee settlement in India.
And how long do you have to stay there? Did you stay there?
I've been a member of that monastery ever since. It's been about 30 years.
Oh, and do you go back? Do you stay there for long periods of time? You live in New York.
No, no, I live there now.
Oh, you do live there.
Yeah.
But weren't you appointed the head of the Tibet Center in New York?
I was.
Director of the Tibet Center?
Yes. So I lived in the monastery for about 13, 14 years, and then sat for my examination, was asked to come back to New York to help run the Tibet Center, and then was appointed abbot of the monastery in India. And so I now really spend most of my time there.
Oh, because in abbot. So do we call you abbot? What do we call you? I mean, like I'm calling you Nikki. I should be calling you something else.
I think
Your
Nikki's
Holiness?
good. No?
No?
Gosh, no.
But should it be abbot?
Gosh. No, stick to Nikki.
Stick to Nikki? So you used a lot of your photographs to raise funds to help your monastery or different monasteries, to build monasteries. Where did you have those kind of fundraisers, and how did you do that?
So what happened, the monastery that I joined, when I joined it, had 12 monks. And it grew to the point where it had over 100. Oh. And we had no place to stay. We were sort of bursting at the seams. Oh. And so we began to plan building a larger monastery. And we needed the funds to do that. And so my photographs were used. I have a very hard time asking people for money. Selling photographs is not a problem. If anyone is willing to buy them, that's nice and clean. I'm not saying, please.
They're beautiful photographs. What is the format? What size are they?
Well, the edition that is being used to raise funds for the monastery vary from 16 by 20, 20 by 24, and 30 by 40.
They're very large. Are they black and white?
They're all black and white. They're all shot with film. They're all printed on silver gelatin paper. They're all very old-fashioned. They're full frame. I'm sort of old-fashioned about these
Are
things.
they signed as well?
Oh, sure.
I know Richard Gere has been a big help in raising funds for you. Was it through the Tibet Center, or was it through friendship with you?
Through friendship with me, and he's a fellow student of the same teacher, Chumla Rinpoche.
Oh, I see.
And so we used this set of 20 photographs. We created, what are they called, series of each in different sizes, and we had a show in New York, a show in Paris, a show in Milan, a show in Rome, a show in Berlin, a show in, where else?
Los
Chicago.
Angeles.
Not yet.
Yes,
Now it's
yes,
just now. And then in New Delhi and in Bombay and in
So there are
Genoa.
editions of how many?
Well, in the smaller size, in the 16 by 20, they're 25.
Oh,
in
I
the
see.
20 by 24, they're 20, and in the 30 by 40, they're 10.
I see. Beautiful. The big ones are not that many. Right. And are they signed? You sign them?
I sign them all. and we did surprisingly well.
Have we built the monastery yet?
We have built it. It was inaugurated by His Holiness the Dalai Lama in 2012.
Oh.
No, sorry, 2010. So we are up and running.
Well, the Dalai Lama must feel very happy to have you, because you edited a couple of his books. Is that right? How was that? What was that process?
Well, when I went to His Holiness and asked how I should do this, and we discussed different ways, and then eventually he said, listen, clearly state that, this was for the first book, clearly state that it is based upon my teaching, and then go where your nose takes you.
How nice. And the next book?
I did in the same manner.
Did you use photographs in the book?
Well, in the first one, the person who designed it, Elizabeth Avedon, used little pictures as a leitmotif throughout. The second one, we didn't do that.
But let's just talk about a minute about the film. I think everything that we've talked about today is probably in the film Monk with the Camera. and it was made by filmmakers Tina Mascara and Guido
Santi.
Santi. Sorry, let's say it again, Guido Santi. And how did you feel having this documentary made about you?
Well, when they approached me, I initially said that I really did not want to have a documentary made about me. But when I then informed my teacher that I was going to meet these people whom I had said no to, he said, "Why did you say no?" And I explained, and he said, "No, you should do it. It would be of benefit to others." And once I was instructed to do it, we had a wonderful time.
And I hear it's wonderful. It's a wonderful film, and everyone has embraced it. And we embrace you, Nicholas Vreeland. Thank you very much for being with us.
Thank you so much.
Don't go away. We'll be right back with actress Sylva Kelegian. Hi, I'm Joan Quinn, and welcome back to the Joan Quinn Profiles. We're taping here at the Hollywood Museum, and our guest is actress, author Sylva Kelegian, who was born in New York City, traveled to the Philippines, Taiwan, and Saudi Arabia. She graduated from junior high school in Miami, and then she passed the GED, and you were off and running.
Off and running.
You wanted out of school, right?
I wanted out of school. I wanted out of Miami. I wanted
out of Miami too.
Yeah. I just wanted to grow up.
So soon, so young.
So young. I went to New York when I was 17.
Did you want to act?
I didn't. No, I didn't want to act till I was 24. Actually, he mentioned, the guest before me mentioned his grandmother, Diane Vreeland, and I actually got into the fashion industry when I went to New York.
Is that right?
That's what I wanted to do.
But from 17, what were you doing?
I got a job with Bass Shoes, and then I got a job with Betsy Johnson.
Wow, two great places.
Two really interesting places to work when you're young.
What were you doing?
At Betsy Johnson, I was running the garment construction, basically, and overseeing everything before there were computers, too. And
I know.
I remember one day I made a horrible mathematical mistake, and it was one of those nightmare things that you do when you're young and you make a mistake. I'll never forget that.
I know, isn't it awful?
Terrible.
It's like a mark on you, because now they don't make mistakes like that.
No,
everybody fact checks everything.
And you have your computers, they can just do. Yeah.
So you went, was there anyone in fashion in your family?
No. I just became fascinated with clothes when I was young and mixed. Now I live in my jeans most of the time, but back then I wouldn't leave the house without my shoes matching my purse. I don't know, it was my way of controlling things probably.
But I think it was very stylish and fashionable to do things like that now. And once you've done it and you've experienced it, throw on these beautiful pants.
Yeah, I wore these special today. I usually,
so soft.
Usually have my jeans on. Yeah.
So then how did acting come about?
So I went with some friends to see Fool for Love, a production of Fool for Love off-Broadway with Kathy Baker and Ed Harris. And I sat in the theater and I said, that's what I'm supposed to do. And ironically, last year I ended up doing a movie with Kathy Baker, so it's three of us.
Can you imagine?
Yeah.
You just sat there and you said, then what'd you do? Go to school again?
I went to Betsy Johnson and I said, I'm leaving, I'm giving my notice, and I became a waitress. That's what happened.
So that's why you were going to be an actress,
that's
right?
I became a waitress.
First.
Yeah. And
or
studied.
during.
Or during, yes. So, and it was a good 10 years of waitressing I did. I paid my dues.
Was it?
Heavily, yes.
And where were you going to school?
I studied with Clifford David, and then I studied with Elaine Aiken from the Actors Studio. Then I became a member of the Actors Studio.
Well, you are a lifetime member of the Actors Studio, which is like an honor.
Yes.
And was it because you were working with Eileen Akins and you learned what to do, or?
She gave me a great technique. She certainly did. She certainly did. And I got in on my first audition, which was
you have
a
to
big
audition
thing.
to get
sure.
in.
Oh, yes, yeah. And it was very hard back then to get in. So I got in, and then you were able to you could just work at the Actors Studio for free in front of wonderful people like Estelle Parsons and Arthur Penn and people like that would moderate and critique, and it was
you
exciting.
would go and do plays in
do a
front of
scene
them?
every
Or
Friday.
Do scenes?
Tuesday and Friday were sessions, and we would put scenes up. And so you'd sign up and you get your scene prepared, and
then they'd critique you?
And then they'd critique you, and everybody in the audience was allowed to comment as well.
Really?
Yeah.
So that's like a continuous education, really, isn't
Continually.
it?
And it's still going on in LA. I'm still part of it in LA.
Do you
Yeah.
critique people, or do you go to, or do you go to do your scenes?
I actually did the scene from Night Mother there. I hadn't done something in a long time, and that's how the play developed that we're doing right now. Yes.
Oh, let's talk about that.
Yeah.
That's pretty interesting.
Yeah, we did well, it was with a different woman, with Ellen Gersten, and I put a scene up, and everybody said, oh my gosh, you should do the play, and that's how it came into our mind. And I reached out to Alia Whitmore from the Whitmore Eclectic, who is a friend of mine, and said, would you be interested in directing and producing this?
And so Elia has a producing company.
She does.
And she obviously cast you because you came with it.
Right.
And who else was in it?
And so Ellen Gersten had a knee problem, had to back out. So Lisa Richards, who is a wonderful actress, she's been around forever. She's done a ton of Broadway and tons of movies. She jumped in at the last minute, and we've been a huge success. We got rave reviews across the board, and we're closing this weekend, but we're hoping it has a life of its own.
It has a life of its own, and it'll probably continue to go because it's been everywhere, hasn't it?
Yeah, it's really, we've gotten incredible response.
Who did it on stage? Other actresses?
Kathy Bates created the role in New York, and there's rumor that Oprah is going to be playing the mother on Broadway next year. So we're waiting to find out if that's true or not, because if it's not true, we'd love to move it into New York off Broadway if possible.
But there's also a film?
There's a film in the 80s or early 90s they did. I guess in the 80s they did it. Sissy Spacek and Anne Bancroft
Did
played
any
it.
of that bother you, that all these other people have done it when you went on? How do you create your own
Yeah, and I actually
persona?
saw Kathy Bates do it. I wasn't even an actress back then. I don't know
You
why I went to
remember
this
that?
play, and I went to this play, and yes, and I remember because it's a very powerful play.
Very heavy, isn't it?
Very, very heavy. But I don't remember the performances really. I just connected to it in my own way. You know, as I've been working a long time, and I work in my own way. And
But this is probably something that is almost like a culmination of everything you've learned. You can pour it all into this role.
That's exactly what it is. Yeah.
And do you cry
Yeah.
and do you have all these emotions?
Well, I get paid to cry on TV. That's how I make most of my money, is crying my way across network television. So
you know how to cry.
So I know how to cry. Yes.
Now it's the Armenian in you.
That's,
we know how
right.
to cry.
That's right. Yes, exactly. But I don't do a lot of crying in this. My mother cries a lot in this.
She does the crying.
She does the crying because she doesn't want me to commit suicide. The play is about, the play opens and I tell her I'm going to be committing suicide that night. And I've just found a place in myself. I look at life and death very differently now. I don't think I could have done this role this way even 2 years ago.
That's interesting, yeah, like how it comes to a certain point in your life where you can do certain roles.
Exactly. When you're ready, it's presented to you, and that's how I feel this role was. Yes, definitely.
Does she look like you?
Lisa does. People think we look like mother and daughter, which is
Do you?
great. Yeah,
That's what I
yeah,
wondered.
yeah. We have a similar vibe.
Well, we asked if there was any fashion in your family. No. Was there any showbiz in your family?
A lot of showbiz. My mother was with the American Ballet Theater. She was a ballet dancer.
Fantastic.
Yeah, well, she was great. She got out of it as soon as we were born and left the business.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
You're a twin.
I'm a twin. I have a twin that looks like my father, who's Armenian, like
dark?
you.
Is she dark?
She's dark hair, dark skin, and I look like my mother more. My mother was a redhead with freckles, but I look more like my mom.
You look like you could have freckles. and
Exactly,
red hair.
yes, yeah.
Is that right? So
Yeah.
obviously you're not identical.
We were fraternal and still are, very much so in
Still
every
are
single
fraternal.
way.
Are you like opposites?
Two people couldn't be more different in every way. Yeah, she's actually coming to visit next week, and we can last about 3 days with each other. And then it's like,
Because I have twins, and they're identical.
Oh, you do?
Yes.
Oh.
And so they look alike. They look like me. They're
Boys or
dark.
girls?
2 girls.
Oh, how
Beautiful,
interesting.
tall, beautiful girls.
Terrific.
So, and they're like mixed, Armenian.
half
and
Armenian.
then you have- so, but
Interesting.
your family was moving around with all these kids. You were 4 kids?
Well, my mother married and had 3 children, and then she divorced my father, and she drove us down to this. We were in the city. My father was a piano player with the Met.
There's
He was
more.
a pianist,
There's
yeah.
more show business,
Yes.
really, or more talent,
And my
right?
grandmother was a big radio actress in her time, and then
Was that his mother?
that was my mother's mother.
Oh, so
and then Yeah, and then my mother's mother married, she had my mother, and then she married one of the writers of Ellery Queen mystery stories.
Oh.
So,
But none of those things opened doors for you because
No.
you were like a little child at that time,
exactly, I
right?
had no interest in, I was so shy I would hide behind my mother. I had no interest in
Did you
show
ever
business.
sing or
No.
play the piano?
No.
Or dance?
I did want to dance, yes. I got to
Did you?
toe shoes, and then I...
Did you take class here or in New York?
In New York, yeah, yeah. No, excuse me, in Florida, because we
Oh, you
we
were
moved
in
when I was
Florida.
6. We moved to Florida. Then we went to Guam, and then we traveled around the film. So my mother ended up marrying a Coast Guard captain. We moved to Florida, and she met this Coast Guard captain, and off to Guam we all went.
But it's so many
he had
kids.
He had 3 kids,
Oh my
and she had 3
gosh,
kids.
you're kidding.
And it was like the dysfunctional Brady Bunch. It was just, we were all thrown together. We didn't have anything in common or know each other. It was not, you should never do that to children. I'm not a
That's
big
really
advocate for
great.
that.
Oh.
Yeah.
But okay, so we've got this great family background that
Yeah.
I think feeds you.
Oh, definitely, definitely.
Even those experiences that you say you shouldn't do to children are probably feeding you in this night mother role.
Everything, that's right.
Right?
Everything. I can tap right into. I had a lot of hard years in my 20s, struggling as a person and as an actress, and real hard years. And so that's not who I am anymore. I'm a very different person, but I can tap into those places very easily.
You've done a lot of films. You did Cash Carter and Crash and Spider-Man. Those were like really top films that you were in. What kind of
and
roles
Atlas
did you
Shrugged
play?
Well, Spider-Man, I was in Spider-Man 1, and my building is burning down, and my child is burning, and Spider-Man comes and saves my baby. Most of the bigger movies I've done, they're just smaller cameo roles. I've done a lot of leads in independent films.
But are they all the same kind of role?
Not always, no. In Atlas Shrugged, I played a kind of offbeat, wacky woman who was into her birds, and Spider-Man, I played this distraught mother. I play a lot of distraught mothers. That's how on the 1-hour dramas, because it's always, that's what 1-hour dramas are about.
Well, your director, Aaliyah Whitmore, who
yes.
comes from a really heavy-duty film background too, right?
Yeah,
Family,
big time,
very...
yeah. James Whitmore, grandfather, yeah.
Right, said that you and Jude are the power couple here.
It's very sweet.
So
It's
you
very
do
sweet.
so many different things, writing, producing, directing,
Yes.
but
I've never
here-
produced and directed, but I've rescued over 500 dogs. That's my calling besides acting. Acting is a very self-involved big business. And I started rescuing. I adopted my first dog, Sammy, and she opened my eyes to the world of need in the rescue world. And I've rescued over 500 dogs in the last 10 years.
And you find homes for them.
I find
is that
homes for
it?
them. Yeah, don't take them home.
And your book,
My book is God Spelled Backwards, The Journey of an Actress into the World of Dog Rescue.
And did you write it?
I did. I wrote it all myself. I had some editors, Flo being one of them. And it's a wonderful journey of what I've been through. It's entertaining, but it's also educational.
We're so
Yes.
glad you came to talk to us today, Sylva. Thank you.
Thank you. Great to meet you.
Thank
a
you.
fellow Armenian.
Yes. Thanks for watching. Keep writing to JAQUINN1 at AOL.com.